Welcome to the She Builds Show. I'm your host, Stefanie Olson, a licensed general contractor who builds new construction, renovates, and designs your vision. Today, more than ever, we need raw, authentic women who are willing to rise above society's norms, break those glass ceilings, and encourage each other to boldly build the life we were meant to live. So, honey, what are you building? All right, you guys, welcome to the She Builds Show. Today, we have a guest from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Piper Stromatt. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on here with you and talk more about She Build and women in the community.
That's right. That's awesome. Okay, so Piper, tell the audience like the name of your business and just kind of like what services you do. What's your zone of genius?
Absolutely. So here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we are a custom home builder in the heart of downtown, and we focus on the custom design builds that aren't fully luxury design, but they're still encompassing all of the luxury elements, but on a more production timeline. My company is called Boutique Living by Curate. So we really envision ourselves as a boutique builder and having that one-on-one experience that you truly get whenever you go into a boutique itself. So we want to be able to cater to each homeowner and truly build their house and build that relationship as we move through the process.
Oh, I love that. I love that term. I've never heard that, boutique builder, because I feel like I'm always trying to explain to people that I'm not like your average builder. Like you're going to get full service and I'm not going to ask you to run around and do things. Like we're going to do everything for you. And this is going to be like, you know, going to what's a really expensive hotel. I don't know. I can't think of one right now because
like
I don't.
Regis Hotel. And
or like, something where there's like somebody servicing your needs and your wants, and you're not having to run around and do everything. And it's a completely different experience. And so it's hard to compare us and our services and our costs to somebody who's just going to show up, do the work, and you're not going to be able to contact them, or you're going to have to run around, you know, like a chicken with your head cut off, and it's going to be the most stressful thing you've ever done in your whole life, and you're never going to do it again. You know, like
right, exactly.
Yeah. So tell me give me a little snapshot of like, how did you get here? What was a little bit of like walking towards where you are now? Because I'm sure it didn't start that way.
Oh, girl, it did not start that way. So I always joke, and I've been on a couple other podcasts, and I joke that dirt runs in my blood. And everybody just looks at me like, what are you talking about? So my grandparents started—
I get it.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah. My grandparents started a civil construction company based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. So I literally grew up on job sites all the time. They were in disaster response, so a little bit different of elements than typical home building. However, they started getting commercial properties, hotels, and that kind of stuff. My grandmother started taking classes in interior design in the 50s by mail.
Gosh.
So
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Right. So she joined my grandfather to build this great company, but lost the chance to be able to do interior design. So when she got her hands on a lot of these different properties that they were fixing up and they were making them better, flipping them essentially, I started at 7 years old saying, I really like the puzzle pieces and playing Tetris and seeing how the spaces come alive. My mom's naturally great at it. My grandmother's naturally great at it. So we started that was where my love really started. So in high school, I was able to take a home ec class because I went to a public high school, and they taught interior design and interior design 1 and 2. So as a freshman in high school, I was like, this is my path. This is what I can't wait to do. I think I was a little wise beyond my years for knowing as a freshman in high school.
Yeah, that's rare.
Going to college. So long story short, I took design 1 and 2 in high school, declared my major at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, which is a very small school in the heart of Chattanooga. They have an interior design program and a construction management program. Fun thing and fun fact, they combine the two.
Oh, so cool.
No one really knows that. So we have all the construction management guys in all of our interior classes, which it's interior architecture. So we can drop to 5,000 square feet and build 5,000 square feet.
Wow, so that's really cool.
It was just where that kind of all started. And I joke, and when I do say it runs in my blood, I can't deny it. So that's kind of where it all started.
So it was kind of like the passion and the, you know, like you just knew. I think that's so cool. I've actually just did like a presentation or like a chat with a bunch of high school kiddos, and they were running from like, sophomore to seniors. And I'm like, tell me, I don't think maybe but one of them knew exactly what they wanted to do. And that, young girl was bright and smart and, top of the class. But she was still like, I want to check out, she wants to be a landscape designer. And I was, I set her up with some of my friends to kind of shadow and be sure. But I think it's rare to know at a young age what your passion is and what you want to do and what your gift is. So cool to be able to know that, because I think that is kind of half the battle in life. People just still in their 40s are like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life,
Exactly. And I think once you find that passion, you find that love, it in your heart. Like, you build the homes that you're building, you're working with the clients, you get that fire in your heart again. You're like, can't wait for the next one. Not, I never want to build another house again. So
right.
I think it takes very special people that are in our industry to find that deep love and that deep appreciation for working with clients and going forward. So I luckily fell into a great builder right when I graduated college. So I've been with him ever since. And now he's my partner at our custom company. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So back up a little bit and tell me, so you didn't go out on your own from the beginning and start your own business. You started working with a contractor who was doing something else. So, because I was just curious, how did you get to the point? Because like my end question is like, how many mistakes and how many things did you have to do wrong to figure out that like boutique building is what you want to do? Because I know it didn't start like that, is my guess.
It did not start like that, girl. Nope, definitely not. So I started out in the commercial world, believe it or not, and I was putting office cubicles together, and boy, did I mess those up entirely. So, and no one goes through school saying, I'm going to design cubicles for a living. Like,
yeah,
what?
That sounds like a great time.
Awful time. So, like I said, messed everything up possible that I could there. So, and then I bought a house, and the builder that I bought my house from, I was telling him, of course, fresh out of school, you think you know everything. Wrong. Yeah. Entirely wrong. So I went through and I was like, your HVAC load is incorrect. Your electrical is incorrect, and you don't have the outlets in these locations space for furniture and yada, yada, like a list of 20 things. And at the closing table, I'm like, I'll never see this guy again. Whatever. I'm going to close on my house, have it fixed. It'd be done. 2 weeks later, there's an offer letter in my email saying, I want you to come work for me full time. And he was very much like a father figure to me. We've grown.
So he took your like picky little list and was like, I want that girl.
I want that girl to come work for me. So I started 2 weeks later. I literally left my job that day. I was like, sold. I'm going to come with you. So we all grew that company from 5 people to 40. And we were production home builders for the 7 years that I was with him prior to starting the next adventure with him, which is the boutique living. So we built our first year, I think we closed 30 homes. And
so you were buying land, developing it, building subdivision type stuff, spec builds?
Spec builds. I would say probably about 30% of them were custom at that time. And so we were getting a little taste, and then we went way production. So we ramped up and we closed 230 homes within the 5th year that we were open.
Oh my choice.
So it was a lot.
How many subdivision or how many houses are they like infill projects, or was it like, okay, we did a whole entire subdivision that was 230? What was it like? Because, we don't have a ton of land here. And so like, my infill projects and my subdivision stuff was like, 18 lot, a 15 lot, a 30 lot. But then I also know I got really bored with like the same granite every day.
Every day.
Every day. Would you like Yuba Tuba, or would you like Calcutta?
White stripe?
Like swan white? Oh my gosh, yes. Me in the face.
Yes, you're just like, get me out of this.
Yeah.
So we started that. It was infill lot. So we pride ourselves. We were responsible for the majority of the downtown housing of Chattanooga in the new upcoming parts that were called South Side. So we did 32 infill lots, and then we kind of ramped it up to doing the 50, the 60, the 70 home track.
Wow.
It was a gradual build, but once we found our groove, we were able to take it from the 30 to the 200s real quick. So the seventh year that I was there, we ended that year with over 200. And that's when we both looked at each other and we said, we think we need a new market. We're against that line of we're very boutique for the production, but we're ready to take the next step and service that 700,000 to 2 million price point.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's your average price point in that spec build? Like what were you guys selling those for?
So Chattanooga was a great pocket of, you got a lot of house for the amount of the value because Chattanooga really wasn't discovered 7 years ago. So that typical price range, like I bought mine for $321 and now they're $700. So like our Curate's spec value now is 1.2, 1.6. So we're still in that very high price range, but our sister company, which is the GreenTech Homes, which I was telling you about, still service those spec builds and they're about 500 now.
Okay. Yeah. So just with appreciation. Okay. So now you worked with, I can't remember his name. Did you tell me his name?
I haven't told you his name yet. His name was Paul Teruya.
Okay. So you worked with Paul and and you were just an employee at that point.
Straight employee, fresh out of school, 21 years old.
And you did that for 7 years with him. And then was it your idea? Like, how did the next phase come into this? And it sounds like you were doing specs, but the higher end. And then are you also doing client work? Like, is there two legs to the business?
There's two legs to the business. So yes, I started driving this. We were having a lot of client relation problems when we were trying to go to the next level design wise. However, production was not ready for that. Our systems, our invoicing, our accounting was not ready for that next step. And I found myself.
You mean next step with client stuff?
Well,
it's a whole other ball game, right?
It's a whole nother ball game. So GreenTech, I was with for 7 years, straight production, but we were really on that cusp of being a very customized production company. Mm-hmm. And so by that year 7, we were just having a lot of client relational issues. Our clients wanted us to go to the next level. We wanted to go to the next level. We just could not get there production wise. So we really had to come to Jesus, as we would say in the South, and said, what do we need to do next? And my heart was just no longer in production as a designer. I was sick of doing the same granite, same cabinets.
Right, me too. Tile. That's exactly why I switched to what I was doing. Because I'm just like, and even like my tile guy was like, if I see 12 by 24 stacked brick one more time, I'm going to blow my brains out, And I'm like, absolutely. I feel you, bro.
Yes. And if I
have to tell you to decide between light gray or dark gray,
done. Yeah. Done. So it was just one of those things. And so we basically just I said, hey, I'm going to either go elsewhere and start my own thing, or I think we should start the custom side. And he said, great. We literally filed our accounting, DBA, everything. In 2 weeks, we started our company the month later. Wow. So we acquired a lot of land that GreenTech already owned. And that's what gave us that leg up. And with him being the sole owner or the majority owner in both companies at the time, that really opened up the door. And then it opened up my door to be able to start our full custom side. So the full design build, still doing 10% spec, but most of 90% is truly custom for us now.
Okay, so tell me, how long ago was that?
3 years ago.
Okay, and how many, what's been the journey there for you? Because now it's like ownership, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you have a whole other, a lot more skin in the game.
Yes,
Tell me about first, second, third projects. How did it go? What were they?
Yeah, so we really eased in. So because we acquired a lot of the land that we already had, we had the knowledge behind it. We also had the floor plans that were already sold. So we transitioned about 10 homeowners from the other company to the new company, transferred all of our project managers that were already on those jobs. So it'd be a smooth transition. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. There were some headaches. And I don't know if the listeners out there are really familiar with steep slope building, but we are steep slope builders, meaning we are almost 12-12 slopes in some portions, if not 6-12 and 8-12 is typically what we do, tall crawls and then crawl on crawls.
Yeah, so that's nutty. Because I was just telling you, I was in Tennessee and there was a house, I was looking for, a flip or something. And there was a house that was on a crazy slope that was obviously having major structural issues. And we were like actually in contract with a different house, and we went and all of the footings were exposed and there was all this erosion. And I was like, yeah, no, this is $100,000 worth of work. We do not do any of that where I live. Like, it is slab on grade.
Oh, girl, that's so nice. That is so nice.
So slope building it blows my mind. And I'm like, you have to have people that know exactly what they're doing, and some bomb engineers would be my guess.
Bomb engineers. And I think we talked earlier about kind of what are some of the mistakes and kind of things that we've learned along the lines. Like, we've learned a lot about working with developers and being the contractor for those developers. The soil in these mountains, you never know the history behind them. So I think test pits for us was one of the things that we had to learn, that we had to do almost on every job, rather than just saying, all right, developer, you gave it to us perfectly. There's nothing underneath these 7 layers of dirt, and we're moving forward. So I think that was one thing that we spent a ton of money on, is having these foundational issues and realizing there's a truck bed that one of our footers was sitting on 10 foot down that no one found.
Wow.
So
did that happen on multiple houses after you guys started the company with the new stuff? You ended up with structural issues on houses?
Yeah, we've had one house that the developer didn't disclose that it was a landfill at one point. And they checked, I think they checked 10 feet down, and I could be wrong on that number, but they didn't go 20 feet down. And the footer that we needed to be right at I think 18. So that soil started failing because they didn't realize that it was uncompacted around that area. So we found rebar, we found concrete pylons, we found tires, we found truck beds. And so I think if listeners are really out there, no one really knows when you're getting into this type of areas, what's the history behind this area? What's the topography? What soil's underneath it? Did you dig 30 feet down? What does your pylons, what do those need to even consist of? And did your engineer tell you that you need to go that far down? So I think that's been, unfortunately, our most expensive learning curve of all time.
Right.
And I think just the soil. So
that
taking
sucks,
your designer
man.
hat to your owner hat to the crew hat, and taking off all those different hats that you have to constantly wear. And I'm thankful that my partner, Paul, he's so knowledgeable in all of that. I can keep my designer hat on and the personal hat on with our employees most of the time.
Because he's looking at, that's awesome. So you got to just kind of stay within your realm. Okay. So we all struggle, and we all, what I say is fail as fast as possible so that you can learn as much as you need to learn. And sometimes those failings, if you didn't go to school for it, or you didn't, just I didn't go to school to do this, but everything I've learned is because I sucked at it and I figured it out. But what brought you, I'm so curious about the house that you're sitting in right now, because I'm just looking at this gorgeous wall, and you've come from that place and now you're sitting in. Give me the details of this. I'm guessing is a spec that you're gonna sell, list, all of that. Is that right?
Absolutely. So we are in the development that I'm talking about with a lot of the soil issues, and we've overcome that to where we are now going into phase 14 of this development, and with 1,200 homes. So we're one of 8 preferred builders. So the home I'm actually sitting in has taken us 20 months, believe it or not. And we are going to stage this house, and we're going to keep it as our model home for 2 years. So what we'll do is we'll walk all of our clients, but this particular one is blown out in every single way, shape, or form, with all of the gadgets, all of the smart home technology, to serve all of our custom homes that we could be building up top on those 1,200 homes. Okay,
so you have 1,200 home sites that you guys are going to be doing custom homes on, or you said you're one of 8 preferred builders. So do you guys own all of those lots, or if the client purchases a lot, then they get to choose one of the 8 builders? Is that kind of how it goes? And then you're going to sell it by showing them this masterpiece?
Yeah, so we kind of have both, which kind of is mind-blowing to a builder, kind of like we are. So we own 32 of those lots. That's going to be more of our spec built. that we've had a lot of homeowners come in and customize those, being more of the spec, because those are on a very tight timeline with takedown schedules. So we own 32 of those outright. We have 4 more that we own currently that we can have anybody come do design builds on. The rest of the 1,200 are all up to these 8 builders that somebody can come and choose from, and they buy their own lot, choose their builder to build on it for them. Okay. So it's kind of both.
That's awesome. How did you guys get into that world? Like, how did you get there?
Absolutely. So the development came to us, and we probably had about a year of round conversations of, is this a good idea? Should we do this? And by that point, GreenTech, our sister company, actually initiated that conversation. And I was on these jobs as the designer. So we started 10 homes in here as onesie, twosie lots. Then it went up to, we're going to take down 10 lots. We're going to do what they call the knoll, which is on this big hill. And that's where our massive steep slopes came from. Before, we were very used to developing kind of like you do. You have your slab on grade, you have your mono slabs, you have some crawls that are only like 4 block high, that kind of stuff. But this is where we really sunk our teeth into, we're setting ourselves up for the future to learn. Yeah. So we really got into it by just onesie, twosie lots. And then the development saying, all right, we want you to be our preferred builder after we've tested you out on about 15 homes now. And you're doing quite well.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. I'm so jealous. I wish we had like, a bigger, because like we're in a smaller town and we just don't have like the big sprawl of large custom second home stuff, because there's not anything super exciting to come like travel here for, or, like we just don't have the market for that. So tell me, I want to walk through and I want to try to educate a little bit about if you're going to buy a custom home, and what does it end up costing? Because with a boutique type of relationship with a client, in my world, we tend to get, we're smaller potatoes, smaller price points.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if our general public is just not educated about how long it takes to do a project. Right. And how much it costs and why planning is so important. Those are kind of like the 3 things I want to talk about with, your perspective of your clients and the type of people you're dealing with, and how can we help educate them on like, what is realistic? What does reality look like if you want to build a house with you in terms of cost, timeline, planning?
Absolutely. So timeline, I think, is the biggest thing that is so surprising to people, because once you get into finding the right builder for you, so our company, Boutique Living by Curate, we do all the design beforehand. So we have majority of the costs figured out. The land, the raw land cost is already taken into consideration. So one thing that is really big is we actually get all the land acquired first, and then we'll go into our timeline. So I would say, people out there, we need to do 2-year timelines if you're doing your plans plus building plus selections, and then your build, and then your close. So that's going to be the most time consuming part. Plans can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to almost even do.
And what's the size that you guys are ranging in terms of like square footage?
So square footage, we only go up to 5,000 square feet now. But we're starting to flirt with that 7,000 square foot range here soon coming up. So we're getting tight on those, but that's our sweet spot, is up to 5,000. So 3,000 to 5,000 would be it.
Yeah. Okay. So that timeline for you guys, and then what is, price? Could you give like a range of like, this is how much it generally costs to do your plans. This is, how we service you with selections, and you're going to, a 5,000 square foot home, you're probably going to end up costing you between X and, Z for the price range. Can you kind of?
Absolutely. Yes. So for people starting out doing plans, you can find them from a draftsman. Keep in mind that is like basic. You are not getting design services, technically interior services with that. You're not getting the structural components to it. They usually have to outsource the structural component to a structural engineer. So you're not getting engineering. So basis of that, we're paying $5.75 a square foot to $7 a square foot for the plans themselves. Now, going through an architect, so think you're layering a cake. You have your overall space planning. You have your interior designer that's usually working with you on that. You're having the true architect plan every element. You're doing your mechanical, you're doing your electrical, you're doing tile, you're doing your elevations, you're doing your exterior design. You're going to get anywhere from $12, and I've seen it to $25, depending on how luxury you want your plans to be and how big you're going. A lot of architects that are very renowned, one of my favorite ones, he sits about $32 a square foot.
Wow.
Just because he is so high in demand. But he also doesn't build less than $10 million homes. Kind of have to weigh the pros and cons to what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Tell me why, because I'm guessing, a year for plans and setting it up and then a year to build. Is that kind of, if you were to do your 2-year project, why does it take a year and why is that important?
That is my favorite question ever, because I feel like everybody just looks at designers and home builders like you and they're like, well, you can do this in 3 months and get started. And it's like, well, that doesn't really work that way. So I like to take almost 6 months for planning of your floor plan, because then we go through each and every question. Are you right-handed or left-handed? What's your lifestyle? How do you want to live in this home? All right. How does this site pertain to this home? Do we need a basement on a crawl space? Do we need a slab? Do you want stairs in your home? So there's so many things that guide these prompting to making the floor plan that you do need time for redlinings, meaning you need to be able to go and mark up this thing 100 times almost to make it its perfect version. So you don't have change orders when you get into the field. You don't have framing errors because you forgot that you need a door for your dog to come in and out of.
Right.
That's one thing people forget all the time, how to live in their house, because they're so focused on how is it going to look to somebody else. You need to focus on how you function. So that's the reason I say hone in on that for 6 months, leave the other 6 months for running around, getting your interior designer in place, getting your furniture provider in place, start nailing down those details, tile colors, paint colors, grout colors. How's your shower going to function? Your plumbing elements. So a lot of people are just mind blown that we've been in design for a year, we don't understand why we can't get started. It's because construction requires all of these answers that you're going through to get to that element. That's how you don't spend I've seen some people
another year building it because not everything is planned well.
Right. Or they're spending $100,000 in change orders because they have to rip out plumbing because they chose on the pretty, but they didn't choose based on how does this function with each other?
Right.
Did we rough in 2 hot water heaters because our house is over 5,000 square feet? Whoops. It's like, you got to think about some of these things. So I hope that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And I think that I don't know if it's, what I'm trying to say is I think that there's a disconnect with actually how good construction gets done. And good construction doesn't get done well by just starting the build. Good construction gets done by planning well. I always tell, even for a remodel, I'm like, I will not start your project until every material I know is going to be here and I know when it's going to be here, because once I start, I'm not stopping.
Right, girl, we're just the same, because I'm like, ready, set, go. We need our invoices and our POs to match your actual order that you thought you had online.
Right. And then you avoid surprises for the client, that there's just, hey, oops, we forgot that we wanted to tile all the way to the ceiling and we didn't order enough tile or whatever like that. And we do 3D renderings and stuff so people can, kind of visualize everything. So I just think that, you guys are at such a beautiful high level that it's pretty amazing how long it takes, but there's reason for that.
There's so much reason behind it. And like you said, our client, I didn't think about the room being that tall. I want to spend the extra money to take the tile to the ceiling. That was such a perfect example that you just said, because in the year 2020, I know everybody wanted to quit building in general and pull their hair out, because it was times like these where it used to be a simple change. Great, let me get some more of that tile ordered. It'll be here in 2 days. My supplier has it in stock. Wonderful. 2020, we come around to, and client decides they want to do that. All right, it's discontinued. We've got to rip your whole tile out, or sorry, you just can't take it to the ceiling.
Right.
I'm so glad to hear somebody else like you plans as much as I do, because I literally get hives when somebody's like comes to me, because I do a side business as well, Heart Studio. And it's just, they come to me and they're like, oh yeah, we've already framed and our plumbing's all roughed in. I'm like, well, who chose those locations? Oh,
Right.
our builder did. And it's like, oh.
How are you going to turn the faucet on when you walk in the shower? Like, you're going to get wet when you turn the water on with your clothes on? No.
Exactly. Or it's, oh, you don't need that wall mounted tub filler. And it's like, well, that's the only way the tub works. You're on a slab. It's like,
how are we going to do it?
So I'm so thankful to hear that you plan as much on your remodels and on your builds as much as I do, and our team does. So
it's important. And I love that you're like, to me, I want, if I could choose in life, like to go first class and to be at like the expensive hotels where they take good care of you. Like, I love being servant, not that I'm like this person unable to go like be a coach or whatever. I'm just saying, when you experience those things, it's nice to be serviced well. It's nice to be thought of. It's nice to not have to stress. And so like, I always just put myself in the client's shoes. Like, what would it be like for them if they could just go do their normal job? And I did mine so well that they only have to call me when they are like, I really want this changed. But everything else they feel communicated with. I've let them know the schedule, what's happening, and it's so planned out well that all we have to do is execute it.
You're exactly right. And I love that you said, like, I want my clients to be treated really well, because that's the same thing for me. How do I want to have an experience to where I want to build again?
Yeah.
60% of people, there's a statistic, 60% almost get a divorce, or they do get divorced because of this very stressful experience, such as home building. And whenever we started these custom companies and production, I want you to have the best experience where you do it 4 more times with me.
Right.
And honestly, I'm so proud to say we've had 4 families that have built 3 to 4 homes a piece with us.
That's amazing. And like, isn't that the best compliment that somebody like comes back? I have a client, like we finished their job and she was like, okay, I know we're done today, but the next thing is this, and I'm like, thank you. Like, okay, the next, like she already told me what the next project is and she's wanting to know like, okay, can you give me a rough cost on that? And I'm like, to be there on the very last day, doing the walkthrough, doing the punch list, and for her to say that the experience was so good that she didn't have to think one day about it to ask me for the next project. Like, we're doing it right. You know what I mean? It wasn't stressful for them. She was in the middle of tax season. She was an accountant. It's like, we did this for her to where it wasn't added stress. And I think that customers have to realize that that is worth paying for.
It's 100%. And I get the question all the time. My agent does, my director of sales, she gets a question. She's like, y'all are so much higher than everybody else. And to me, I'm like, well, then that means we didn't answer her question good enough, saying you get X, Y, and Z all included. Our base inclusions for allowances are the highest of the base that you can find before reaching that luxury level. So, and you get the experience, you get the concierge service. We're not 24/7, but you can email us 24/7 and we'll get you back when the regular 8 to 5 happens. But you get 1 project manager, 1 designer on your job, you get your estimating team, you get your procurement team, and you get one-on-one with your accounting department. So we call it a face for every phase, which is wonderful.
That's awesome. I love it. And when I'm trying to sell myself, I'm always like, I'm not going to be your cheapest option. Okay.
Nope. I'm going to tell you why.
Because you're going to love me when we're done with this.
Oh, yes. I know our listeners out there, if they're building for the very first time or going through the process, don't go with the cheapest person because you're going to end up doing all the work majority yourself, or you're going to have somebody do it for you that you don't even know what happened.
Right.
And I think my best advice is just do your homework. Look at that person. Ask them the hard questions. I have people just ask me, why do you love doing this? And I love them to ask me that question because they're getting to know me as a person behind the company. And I'm sure that people ask you that too. And then they see your personality come out.
Right. Absolutely. And I think when it comes to the relationships, it's like, we're basically like dating, like you and I are dating, we're going to hang out a lot, and we've got to we got to like each other, and you got to feel comfortable talking to me, and, know that I've got your back, both like watching your budget and I know exactly who you are and what you want and how you would choose it, that if you were gone, you would trust me fully to make that decision in your place, so it's like, if it's worth it to you to have that type of experience, spend an extra 6 months saving the money or doing whatever you need to do to have that experience versus having an experience where you don't ever want to do it again and you hate how it looks and you're going to have to hire me anyway to come in and fix it or whatever it is. Just be mindful that the cheapest option is not always the best option.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. So here's to boutique builders. Yeah. We need
Women in building, which is even better.
Right. I don't know.
Women in building, I feel like we're taking over. And I love to see all the carpenters that have started to be on TikTok and Instagram. And I love your page and you going through your processes and all of your installations. And it makes my heart so happy. So I would say if you're a woman out there and you want to get into it, my best project manager, she's downstairs right now, was in banking before.
Oh my God, that's exactly my story as well. She was she was in banking for like 7 years. And then she was my finance person. And then our project manager left and she was like, I really want to do that. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. And she is freaking killing it. Killing it. I'm like, you are so good at this. How did we not know?
I know. I remember Laura, she's one of my close friends too. And she walked in, and my partner at the time, because we were both working for the GreenTech company, and she walks in and she's like, hey, Paul, you told me to dig a footer. What's a footer? And I was like, oh no. I was like, is this going to go over well? And so that's one of our favorite stories to tell her and I, because now she's knocking out 15 homes at a time. It's just so cool to see somebody go in from something that they thought they loved, ended up hating, to something else they didn't know anything about.
Right. And it's like, and that is what is so cool about this industry is like, it does not matter if you don't know the industry knowledge. If you're set up in your personality and your way of thinking, that you can be taught those skills. And that's all I did with her was just, I taught her the information. She had the execution and the follow through. And if she didn't know something, she asked me. And, it's like, you're just killing it. And then she's making it better. She's like, okay, so, the painters, they want to know, sometimes I forget to detail like the sheen, even though I know what it's going to be. And she's like, we need to make sure we've got everything written down on the wall right before, she's trying to make it better, which is just so cool. Tell me how, because I know you have a couple different companies. So if somebody wants to work with you or hire you, go through all of the things of ways they can contact you and the services you provide so that we can just send more business your way.
Thank you for considering that. I really appreciate it. So if you want me solely to come work on either redlining your house or like your plans, doing interior selections on your build, or going through and helping guiding you through that process, and you're working with another builder, I'm happy to do that for you virtually. And that's heartstudiochat.com. You can reach me on there or Instagram. I'm Piper and it's _ the building blonde. So if you are here in Chattanooga and you want us to build your home, you can go to curatechat.com and we can build you anything that you have your heart desired on.
That's amazing. I love it. Well, gosh, Piper, it was so cool to meet you. And you have a podcast too, right?
I do. The Building Blonde.
That is amazing. So people can go listen to your podcast. Give them just like a little snippet of what it's about.
Oh my gosh, heart and home. So my biggest thing is my heart is in construction. My heart is in working with people. So my latest season is called Family Style. And I'm interviewing everybody that has become family through this process and interviewing my family that is in construction in all different facets.
Oh, that's so cool.
Interviewing them So that's my latest season. But other seasons, I'm doing tips and tricks on what to expect and how to do it. So those are the two primary things. And then my Instagram is definitely more geared towards the everyday life of an interior designer in new home construction.
Awesome. Well, it's so fun. And your Instagram is gorgeous. And the stuff that you do is incredible. And it's just so cool to know you and to meet you and to now be in business and in circle together. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And again, Stephanie, this was when you reached out to me, I was so excited because you very rarely find somebody that is supporting other women just as well as you do. So I really appreciate the time and I look up to you a ton on everything you're doing as well. So thank you again.
Awesome. Okay. Well, have a fabulous day.
Thank you. You too. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me today on the She Builds Show. My name is Stefanie Olson. My hope is that this episode leaves you feeling empowered and ready to boldly take that step into building the life that you envision, 1 2x4 at a time. And if you can do me a quick favor, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. I get giddy over reading the reviews each week, and I will choose one special person to win some She Builds swag. Make sure you add your name to the review, and I'll reach out if you're the winner. Thanks again for hanging out. Be sure to visit me at theshebuildshow.com, where you can ask me questions and share with me what you're building.